We will now move on to our next speaker. She is from San Francisco. She has over 30 years experience of working in the software industry in Silicon Valley. She has a deep and varied understanding of business, science, and technology. She is a leader at tracking and forecasting innovation in technology. She is a co-founder and CEO of JTHEREUM, which is an enterprise blockchain company, and she is a president of U1 Technologies, an enterprise software company. She has been at the forefront of emerging technology since 1990, and she was a core member of the team that developed the first Java-based secure messaging software for soft trading platforms used by the world's top multinational investment banks. She has published over 250 articles on AI and deep tech, and is a host of AI Time Journal's AI in Healthcare podcast. She publishes weekly newsletters on deep tech with over 80,000 subscribers, and has spoken at conferences in Oman, US, Singapore, Switzerland, Brazil, Mexico, Saudi, and Tanzania. She serves on the advisory board of the AI Precision Health Institute at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center, and serves as an expert committee for the world's first global longevity finance hub in India. And she is a member of the Digital Health Innovation Research Group in Dar es Salaam. Her articles on AI, fintech, and blockchain have been published multiple times in Forbes, MIT Technology Review, Bahrain Entrepreneur, Asian Robotic Review, and many more. She's a good friend of ours, and her name is Margaretta Colangelo, and she will be speaking about healthcare careers by 2030. Margaretta, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Amr. I'm going to share my screen, okay?
Sure, go ahead, Margaretta. Has anyone here been to San Francisco, by the way?
Can you see my screen, Amr?
Yes, it's showing now.
Okay, then I'm going to open up my slide deck. Here it is. Okay, here it is. Now you can see that, right?
Yes, we can see that,
Okay,
Margaretta.
great.
Thank you.
Well, Amr, thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I really like speaking at your conferences, and I was really excited to be part of this. So what I'm going to talk about today is the healthcare careers by 2030. And things are going to be so different and so amazing by 2030 that I'm really excited to talk about this. This is the first time I've talked about the future, because I'm always talking about what's happening this year because so many big things are happening. So I'm excited to do this presentation. So I'm trying to go to the next. Here we go. Okay, so the thing that is the most exciting about healthcare right now is that technology is advancing healthcare, and all of the technologies that are being used around the world, like AI, quantum computing, nanotech, blockchain, and cloud computing, are seeing the biggest advancements in healthcare. And usually once a week I make a big announcement, but this week I made 3. So it's really picking up, and things are advancing really quickly, and it's becoming exponential. So if that's happening now in 2021, it's just going to keep increasing, and we're going to just keep making breakthroughs, and we're going to see all this progress, and it's very, very exciting. So everyone should work in healthcare. So let's see. So the thing that we're doing with healthcare when we use things like AI are solving some of the biggest problems. And one of the biggest problems is, as we age, our risk for every disease goes up. And it doesn't start when we're 50, it starts younger, when we're about 30. And scientists are working on ways to make it so people don't start getting sick so early, so they can have a much better life, and they can intervene early. So that's one of the biggest things that we're using AI for right now. AI is being used in all different areas of medicine, from pathology to diagnostics, dermatology, cardiology, many, many different areas. And it's it's being used in biology, chemistry, medicine, psychology, and clinical trials. So all different kinds of technology are being used in all different areas of medicine. And it's very interesting to see what can happen when you apply it to, certain areas. The area that I follow, the two areas that I follow the most closely are AI in medical imaging and AI in drug discovery. And so I'm going to tell you some of the things that have happened just in the last 2 months, big milestones, big breakthroughs. And when you see these, I think you'll be able to conceptualize what will happen in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and you'll see why it's so exciting. So the first one is about mammograms. So the human eye can only distinguish 256 shades of gray on a mammogram, and there's 65,000 shades. So the human eye is only seeing very little data out of 65,000, but AI can see all 65,000 shades, and it can compare thousands and thousands of variables, and it can do it in a second. So this is John Shepard from the AI Institute in Hawaii, and I'm on his advisory board, and he made a big breakthrough just this week, or just this in September. And what they were able to do was they were able to use deep learning to distinguish between mammograms of women who will develop breast cancer and those who won't. And they published the paper, and it was peer reviewed, and it got a very, very, very favorable reception, because it was amazing that you're able to do that, and they can do it years in advance. So that's something we cannot do without AI. And this is one of the interesting things that they use deep learning, which is a specific area of AI. The AI wasn't only able just to see the area that was either a tumor or was benign or a cyst, but it was able to see the composition. And one thing that it found was that tumors that actually are invasive cancer have a much higher water content. So that led to more research. And that's something you can't see with the human eye. And now in CT scans of the human brain, they're using AI to analyze those too, because on a CT scan, the human eye can only see 20 gradations out of 30,000 or 65,000. So when a human radiologist is looking at medical images, they're only able to, see very, very little of what's there, and AI can see it all. So just in, let's say in October, a company called JTHEREUM used a certain type of deep learning, and it's called 3D-UNet, to look at CT scans of the brain. And here's what they saw. This first gray image is what the human eye can see. You can't really, if you're looking at, you can't really tell it much, but this is what the deep learning was able to, the output of the deep learning. And then below is the actual skull, and this is what they were able to see. And what this image shows is that little tiny holes in this bone that are used for the brain to get rid of waste were blocked. So the waste stays in the brain, and it leads to Alzheimer's. And that paper was published in October. And that was really interesting too. And this could not have been done without deep learning. Then also in October is the very first time that the FDA granted approval for an AI-based pathology product. It's called Page Prostate, and it's actually being used in doctors' offices right now. And that just happened, in the last couple of months. And that makes it so people can get a very quick diagnosis, and it's much more accurate than a human, like much more accurate than a human diagnosis. So that was medical imaging. Now AI for drug discovery. And AI for drug discovery is the advances are so shocking that people don't even believe it when we make the announcements about what has happened, because it's so shocking. And the way I can describe what AI does with drug discovery is the first image is traditional drug discovery. So when big pharma companies are trying to find a medicine to treat a certain disease or condition, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. It usually takes 10 to 15 years, sometimes longer, and they fail 90% of the time. So this is for really big, diseases like Alzheimer's and things. They fail all the time, and they're putting in billions and billions of dollars. But on the right, you can see the method that AI uses. AI doesn't look for the needle. It generates the perfect needle that is needed to treat that disease. So it's AI is going about it a completely different way than humans. And just 2 weeks ago, we made the announcement that there was probably the most significant milestone in AI for drug discovery to date. And the company that did it started working in AI for drug discovery in 2015. And so this is 6 years that they've been working, and this is what they got to. This is the milestone they got to. And the milestone is that they created a drug 100% using AI. So the AI, came up with a hypothesis, discovered a novel molecule, discovered a target, and they made the drug, and they actually dosed a human being. So, that person was in Australia. And so, and it was the drug they're treating is pulmonary fibrosis. And so this is the first time in history that a human being has been given a drug that was designed by an AI, completely designed by AI. And it usually, I said takes 10 years. This one took 18 months. So and it cost $2.5 million. So that's amazing. And they have many, many more drugs in the pipeline, and a lot of other companies are going to do this. So this is in 2022 and 2023, we're going to be hearing a lot of announcements about new drugs, and it's just going to happen very quickly. So if you think about, 5 years from now, it's going to be amazing. I mean, it's just things that used to take 10 years are going to take 1 month. So that's just really exciting. And we can get these medicines to people quicker, and they'll hopefully be less expensive because, the AI is doing it. And this is, I like this image because it just shows you all the different phases of drug discovery and where AI is so different from traditional approaches. So like in the very first column, this is the one that takes the longest. It's decades, 10, 20 years for humans to do this alone. With AI, it took 1 week. It just for people who work in the pharma industry, this is just absolutely shocking to them. It's hard to believe. And then the next phase usually takes a year, and it took this company 2 months. And then basically the entire process just took, 11 months, and it cost 2 million. And so it's just an amazing difference. And something that is going to really change all types of medicine is quantum computing. And, people have been following quantum computing for, a few years now. And right now, quantum computing is 10 years ahead of what was expected. So people didn't expect us to be here until 2030. And here we are in 2021, and we're really advanced. And when I tell people about, where we are with quantum computing, they don't believe me. So I give them all the statistics. So, right now there's 416 investors who've invested in quantum computing companies. There's 399 companies, 200 research centers, over 100 universities in the world are involved with quantum technologies. 30 national labs and hundreds of end users using quantum computing. And recently there was a big quantum computing meeting, and all the CEOs of the companies that use quantum, IBM and Google and everything, they were all there. And they asked all of the senior executives, where will be the biggest impact of quantum computing? And healthcare was the number one. 28% said quantum computing will be felt the most in healthcare. And then they said, who will be the early adopters of quantum technologies, and it's pharma and healthcare. So, and that was surprising because most people thought it would be in fintech. So this is, people don't expect this. And so it's, when you think of all these things together, AI, quantum computing, nanomedicine, and then cloud computing, and then even add in blockchain, and all of these technologies are advancing really, really quickly separately. And in the next couple of years, they're going to converge. So it's healthcare is going, and they're going to be converging in healthcare. So healthcare is going to be the most exciting area to work in if you're interested in technology and things like that. And let me just give you an example of what quantum can do in pharma. So in pharma, experiments are really, really important, but they're very expensive to do, and it takes a long time. So with quantum computing, you don't have to do it the old way. In quantum computing, this is a company in Denmark that I was speaking with, and they did a test where they did the same exact thing the traditional way in the laboratory, and then they used their quantum platform. It took the laboratory 21 days and cost 4,000 euro. It took the quantum computing 2 days. So it was a 90% reduction in time. So that's just even more than AI. It's just, and there's many, many companies. I'm actually going to be writing an article about this in January, about all the companies that are now going to be using quantum that nobody really knows about. So that's it. That was just a very quick overview, just to help you understand that things are moving so quickly that most people don't even know those things I just told you. So it's basically things that have happened in October and November that people aren't even aware of. And it's in 2022, it's going to really speed up, and it's going to be incredible. So I think it's a really amazing field to work in. And I've written so many articles about all these types of technologies. So if you're interested, you can just read about them on my website.
Thank you so much, Margaretta. It's really awesome the way you spread the information and knowledge about AI, drug discovery, and longevity. So if you just spend 1 more minute on longevity, because that's something which is something which I would like to share with the audience here, face-to-face and online.
Mm-hmm. So would you like me to tell you?
You can just speak about it if you need time to bring this slide up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Do I have a little bit of time? I don't want to take the next person's time.
Yeah, Vyam says you have another 3 minutes, so you can use
good.
that.
Okay, yeah.
Great.
Okay,
yeah.
so
your skills at timekeeping are awesome. So.
Something that's really, really exciting in the field of medicine is a whole new discipline called longevity medicine. And this is not for old people, it's for everybody. And the people who are going to probably, benefit the most are people who are 20 and 30 right now, because in the next 10 years, people who are young in their 20s and 30s can go to their doctors, and their doctors can give them wearables, and they can analyze their tests in such a way that they can predict things 20 and 30 years before they happen. So the younger generation, it's very possible you can avoid a lot of diseases. And so longevity medicine uses AI, and basically it's very personalized medicine. So everything that the doctor analyzes all of your data and tells you exactly what's going to happen to you. Whereas right now they're looking at like everybody your age, or they're looking at huge groups. But with longevity medicine, it's the AI analyzes you and tells you, number one, if you're going to get sick, and number two, what's the best medicine for you. So it tells you the right drug, how often to take it. And that will, doctors are studying longevity medicine now, and that will probably be used in the next 3 or 4 years. And so it's basically what it will do, it'll slow down aging. So people will live however long they're going to live, like 90 years or whatever, but they won't have to be sick for so many years. So many people now in the last 10 years of their lives, they're very sick and they have Alzheimer's or dementia, or they have a stroke, or they get, terrible diseases. But with longevity medicine, it'll keep people healthy all the way so they can live a very full life. And it's really good for families because families can be together and be healthy and they don't have to, have their family members suffering. So, and I think that it's sort of a misnomer. I think people think longevity medicine is only for older people, but it's for all people to keep everyone healthy. And it's just to make you healthy throughout your whole life, including when you're aging.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And it's great to see all the developments that are happening in relation to breast cancer. And you're talking about technology, AI. When telescopes were first introduced in science, they made a very, very big change to the development of science. And so it shows that with this profession, we need to start to use AI more. So everyone in healthcare or going into healthcare, this is something which will feature much more heavily. So it's the technology that we need to get used to. There's actually the SQU hospital, which I'm not sure if it's opened up. I think it's opened up recently, which will be focusing on cancer. So like you said, there's going to be a lot of things happening in the healthcare industry in Oman and beyond. And we look forward to working with you on our eHealth event in February 2022, looking at all the technologies in healthcare. And you were speaking about how in the past where things took decades, now it just takes maybe a couple of years to do the
like
same.
A week.
A week? Okay, a week.
No, Amr, it's going to be so shocking that people won't believe it. But things that used to take a year will take a week. It's shocking.
That's great news for health, and that's also great news for healthcare as an industry, because I guess that makes things much cheaper. So there's much more investment that can happen in healthcare, and therefore much more employment, which is good news for people's health and for the industry as well. So thank you so much, Margaretta, for that great speech.
Thank you.